my name is Na, and I would just like to take the time to thank everyone who was involved in making this project successful.
This initiative started in 2023 with the PMSA Club, where for an event we thought, how can we tangibly support our community? So we raised funds for 200 menstrual hygiene kits, and the following year we pushed that mission forward through the Interfaith Scholars Program, where for one of the class projects, which was serving the community, the Interfaith Scholars Program partnered with the PMSA Club and other health clubs, and we did 400 menstrual hygiene kits for the community. This year, with the Emblem Grant, we were able to exponentially grow that effort into 2,000 packaging kits.
Hi guys, my name is Elsie, and in this project, we assembled around 2,000 kits, as well as distributed among the Cedar Riverside community with Trinity Lutheran Church, a local mosque, and as well as homebound shelters.
I think a moment that really stood out to me was just kind of midway through packing, looking in the room, seeing how many people had turned out for this event, and all kind of actively participating in this community work. It's inspiring to see how many people will turn up if you just get the word out and give them an opportunity to help.
It doesn't take one person to do change. It takes the whole community. It takes everyone coming together and putting in the effort.
I learned that doing this type of work makes you feel whole, brings a bunch of love and camaraderie with everybody, and people from all walks of life can come together and build community connection.
I really love about this event is the community.
It's just looking around the room at some point and just seeing everybody smiling and laughing together, making the packages and everything. So yeah, this is a 10 out of 10 experience. Definitely do it again.
Compassion is one of the most important aspects of healthcare, and so developing this type of skills and helping each other out through these tough times is very important.
And I think it plays a great role in contributing and having that connection from Augsburg and our students to the community.
That's the value that we have in Augsburg, and I'm glad I go to school.
Good afternoon. It's wonderful to welcome you here to our 4th annual Interfaith Symposium here at Augsburg University. I'm Paul Prevenow, the president here at Augsburg, in my 20th year as president. This annual symposium has become a wonderful way for us to be able to share, both with our campus community and the wider community, the remarkable interfaith work that is going on this campus. It brings our staff, our faculty, our students together with community members to explore the ways in which we are committed to thinking about faith as a source of good, a force for good in the world. For us, interfaith dialogue, understanding, and collaboration are fundamental to Augsburg's education and to our mission, and we have the privilege of a range of programs and opportunities that we are providing for our students here on campus. And through the lessons that we're learning in those efforts here on campus with our students, we are also finding more and more opportunities to share that expertise, to share those experiences with the wider community. And we're so grateful for many of the representatives of the corporations and organizations that we've partnered with in this work, and it really is a joy to be able to take what we've learned here and share it more widely. We believe that our Augsburg students take the experiences they have in these programs, the values that they have, into the world, and they apply them in their lives as professionals, leaders, and community members. I believe that the world needs more Augies, and your presence and support today make that possible. Now I'd like to invite host committee member Elder Suzanne Kelly to share our land acknowledgement. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Prevenow. Good morning, or now afternoon. It's an honor to welcome all of you here today to this Interfaith Symposium. I want to take just a moment to recognize the land on which we are gathered. Augsburg University recognizes the Dakota as sovereign nations and acknowledges that we are occupying their land. The Dakota are the original inhabitants of Minnesota, Makoche, and we condemn the injustices and genocide they have faced. We honor the Dakota and their continued lived experiences on this land, their wisdom about this place, and their recognition that we are all part of the same creation. It is now my pleasure to introduce the Executive Director and El Hebre Endowed Chair of the Interfaith Institute, Najiba Saeed.
Good morning, Augies. Good morning, Augies. I have to turn the page. Sorry, I needed a second. Good morning, all. Before I introduce today's keynote speaker, I would like to extend my deep gratitude to the Symposium Host Committee, whose efforts have made today's gathering possible. Their names are listed on the screen, and I invite them to stand if they are able so we may recognize them. Thank you. Please stand. So sometimes in our lives, we meet someone in their early 20s, and then you reconnect with them years after. That is how I know Jen Bailey, as a college student, as an interfaith activist, and years later, we are now sharing a stage. So it's an incredible honor to introduce Jen. Jen is a mother of 2 children, and as she says, she is an ordained AME pastor raising 2 Black Jewish children in Tennessee. In addition to that part of her bio and the incredible student leader that she has been, and afterwards, she has started organizations that brought faith into public life, that connected people across political, racial, community divides. And this current iteration is working at a foundation that focuses on the upliftment of youth, especially around the issues that we face these days with our global climate crisis. We are incredibly honored to have her, and for me, it's incredible. Like, I don't know, I think last year when Chris introduced our other speaker, I'm almost moved to tears, because what I believe, as we had yesterday, a Muslim, Jewish, and Christian student introduce generosity from Augsburg and talk about it to people from all over the city, what I believe is we don't have to wait for tomorrow's generation to lead. You are the leaders now. And we are incredibly blessed. We are incredibly blessed to have Jen join us today. And one of the things we wanted to remind people is we will be sharing a recording afterwards. So we would ask please not to record today's lecture as well. And I will encourage you to look at her full bio, but what I want to say is what most impresses me about Jen is that she is not afraid. She is not afraid. And she leads with courage, she leads with strength, and for all of us, whether we are 16 or 96 today, you have a role in making the world better, and I am incredibly honored to welcome Reverend Jen Bailey to our stage at Augsburg University. Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much. What a gift it is to be with you today. Beloved, it's growing season again. Can you feel it? Like today was really nice outside, right? All around us, the winter freeze is giving way to the promise of spring. Across the northern hemisphere, farmers of all shapes and sizes are preparing to sow seeds that will, in time, grow into a harvest that nourishes their communities. In the sacred scriptures of my tradition, there are endless teaching, pericopes, parables about this season. The book of Ecclesiastes reminds us that there is a time for everything under the heavens. A time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant, and indeed a time to uproot that which has been planted, a time to break down, and a time to build up. These teachings remind us that what we sow matters, that the condition of the soil matters, and that harvest does not come overnight. I first learned how to grow when I was not too much older than some of the students in this room. You see, my first job out of college at 22 was as a community organizing fellow in food desert communities in my adopted hometown of Nashville, Tennessee. There, I worked alongside a community of Black women attempting to increase access to affordable, healthy foods in their communities. Most of them were residents of public housing. They were working mothers and grandmothers, attempting to, as we say in the Black church tradition, make a way out of no way, as a means of nourishing their families. Many of them lived in fixed incomes or paycheck to paycheck, and so they planted gardens to supplement the foods in their pantries. See, I, that year, got an informal scientific education, working alongside Miss Sandra in her garden in the hot Tennessee sun, tending to her tomato plants. I learned that she was indeed a botanist, knowing when and how and where to plant seeds that would lead to an abundant harvest for her family. She was indeed a conservationist, for whom phrases like reduce, reuse, recycle were more than just mantras. They were her lived experience and the linchpin to her very survival. She was a climate scientist, acutely aware of drastic implications of shifts in our climate and weather patterns and its implications for the well-being of her community. In her eyes, I saw a reflection of my own grandmother's eyes, Harriet, a lifelong domestic worker raised on a sugarcane farm in southern Georgia in the 1930s and 40s. She could conjure magic out of the soil. Against the backdrop of the violent and unrelenting system of Jim and Jane Crow, she and her family found dignity and prosperity in working their own land. She was a woman who, at her very core, was a community mobilizer, who both lobbied for her union and grew a patch of collard greens in her community that anyone was welcome to eat from. Lately, I've been finding myself returning to the stories of these women who shaped me as a young adult in my early 20s, as a type of sacred text, as I've struggled to make sense of the world that we're living in. There's a phrase that's been echoing in my spirit. Last year, I had the privilege to learn from Mia Birdsong, a pathfinder and futurist who reconnects us with our forgotten wisdom and practices, particularly as we think about what it means to live into a vision of collective liberation. Mia told me something that stopped me in my tracks. In these times, she said, we are planting seeds in toxic soil. All around us, we can see it. We see it in headlines about escalating violence and war in places like Iran, Ukraine, Sudan, Haiti, and the Middle East. We see it in the ecological collapse and consequences of how we have treated the earth, our mother. We see it in quiet crises, addiction, loneliness, despair. And you all have seen it here in your lived experience the past several months, with families living with uncertainty, a sense of something fundamental shifting underneath our feet. This is not abstract. This is the soil we are living in. And at the same time, we are definitely being told a story about what is happening. A story that says we're too divided, too far gone, too broken to repair. And there is data that gives weight to that feeling. Across the world, democratic conditions are declining. Across our country, in places like Minnesota and Tennessee, democratic conditions are declining. Trust is fraying, institutions are weakening, and perhaps most concerning, we're losing our ability to both hear and see one another. Disagreement is no longer difference. It's being considered a threat. And in that kind of environment, everything hardens. I would say to you today, this is not just a political crisis, it is a relational crisis. Indeed, I believe it's a spiritual crisis. It is a crisis of the soil that grounds our shared life. And if I'm being honest, part of me thinks that what makes this moment so dangerous is not just what's happening around us or to us, it's what's happening within us. Because in times like these, it's easy to fall prey to the seduction of simple solutions. Simple answers, simple enemies, simple narratives that tell us who is to blame and how to fix it. There is a type of comfort in certainty. I believe that faith is trust in the absence of certainty. A kind of relief in believing that there is a problem that is out there. But those kinds of solutions do not heal. They harden. They deepen the very fractures they promise to fix. And so I would say today that we are living through what is not only a material crisis, it is a crisis of spirit, a crisis shaped by separation, a forgetting that we do indeed belong to one another. It's a crisis shaped by supremacy of all forms, a belief that some lives, both human and non-human, are more important and matter more than others. That domination is a form of strength. And these forces, they're not abstract. They show up in our systems. But they also show up in us. And how quickly we dismiss one another, and how easy it is for us to retreat, and how tempting it is to give up on the possibility of shared life. And that has led us, I believe, to a narrowing of our imagination, a way of seeing the world that has convinced us that we are separate from the earth and separate from each other. We have forgotten at our core that we belong. And when we forget that, we begin to live as if nothing is sacred. So again, if the crisis is separation, the work is solidarity. If the crisis is supremacy, the work is mutuality. If the crisis is disconnection, the work is relationship. We will not heal when we refuse that which we refuse to remain in relationship with. Not the earth, not our communities, not ourselves. Because y'all, soil is not just dirt. I know it's easy to be tempted to believe that, right? Like you see it, you handle it. If you're like my 2-year-old, you throw it places. It is relationship. I know there's probably some scientists in the room, like literally there is stuff, relationship always forming in the soil. It's built on exchange, on reciprocity, and time. Healthy soil is sustained by connection, but soil can be depleted through extraction, through neglect, through harm that is never repaired. And over time, it loses its capacity to sustain life. But here's what I've come to believe, y'all. Even toxic soil can be restored. Not quickly, not easily, but through practices of repair. I've learned through the years, especially this last year, I've been hanging out with a lot of climate justice folks in Tennessee. Yes, we exist. Even though our state legislature may tell us we don't exist. Story for another day, y'all. Living in Tennessee is rough. I've learned hanging out with them that there are some plants who do this work, right? Plants that draw toxins out of the soil, that loosen what has hardened, that begin to make life possible again. There's a practice called phytoremediation. Now, that's a big word, and as a political science, like theology nerd, that was never something that was in my realm when I was a student, right? But it's basically this idea that there are certain plants that can be planted in damaged ground, and over time, they start to draw out toxins and restore the soil. Healing, it turns out, is written into the very fabric of creation. So lately, I found myself on a hunt with my 2-year-old and my 5-year-old, who are avid nature walkers and like to explore all over the place, searching for one of those glorious plants, sunflowers. Max and Celia Pearl and I often are looking for signs of hope and healing in the midst of toxicity when we look for those sunflowers. And I've also been asking myself a different set of questions than the ones I hear being asked in our public discourse today. Not about what's wrong, but rather what is dying, what's trying to emerge in this moment, and what is already blooming beautifully, even now, often unnoticed. Because if we only look at what is broken, we're gonna miss what's becoming, y'all. And I've been thinking a lot about what it means to plant in difficult soil, not just metaphorically, but in my own life. Having 2 young kids requires you to have a sense of rooted hope. It just does, right? Like on the day-to-day, maintaining my sanity with 2 very active children it is a test of faith. But at the same time, giving birth to them in this season feels like an act of radical hope. They are at the age, especially that 5-year-old, where they're beginning to question everything, including my authority, which you know. All qualities at 25 I will deeply appreciate with him, but sometimes he just needs to get in the car when I tell him to. Whew, Jesus. Patience. I've been learning patience in a new way. And I'll be honest with you, one of the things my kids are curious about is this sense of planting. And while I might come from a good stock of gardeners, I am not. We have not yet mastered the patience or the discipline to really tend to something over time in that way. If you've ever had a 2- and a 5-year-old, time is both quick and very, very slow on the day-to-day. But I have aspirations. I have this quiet hope that one day we will get our hands in the dirt together, that we will plant something and come back to it, that we will learn what it means to tend and wait and watch something grow. And still, I know this much. The condition of the soil matters. That some ground has to be loosened, nourished, and prepared, and that growth is not automatic. And that realization takes me back to Miss Sharon's garden, back to my grandmother's garden, back to their hands in the soil. Women who understood something about patience in moments of urgency, about tending to that which we haven't yet seen. So many of us in the season are being called to tend to something, maybe a sense of our collective liberation that we may not see in our lifetimes. And what I'm learning slowly is this: We do not get to choose the soil we inherit, but we do get to choose how we tend it. And this is where I locate a sense of radical hope. Not a feeling. I know people talk about hope and it becomes this thing that feels all nice and, gushy, right? I'm not talking about a feeling of hope. I'm not even talking about optimism, but I'm talking about hope as a practice. You see, radical hope is rooted hope. Literally, the word radical comes from the term rooted, right? It is a daily discipline of choosing to plant something life-giving, even in conditions that do not yet guarantee growth. It's a refusal in the midst of all that toxicity, all of the harm that we witness daily in our lives, to not let despair have the final word. It is the quiet, steady work of tending what could be, even when that feels overwhelming, even when that feels out of reach. So the question before us is not whether the soil is damaged. It is. The question is what we will plant anyway. What is dying? What wants to emerge? What is already blooming beautifully right in front of us? Friends, I'm going to invite you into practice. Is that okay? Oh, y'all, I'm a preacher in the Black church tradition. You got to talk back at me. We do this thing called call and response. You ready? You ready? You sure? Amazing. Because we know that healing must be lived, right? It's not just spoken from podiums. So I want to invite us in this moment to close not with words, but with practice. Because healing is not something we talk about. It's something we live. It's something we practice. It's something we do together. So as you walked in, you all should have received a small packet of seeds. Does everybody have those? Show them to me. Does anybody not have the seeds? If you don't have it, raise your hand and somebody will come and give them to you. Keep your hands raised if you haven't gotten them yet. Keep them raised, keep them raised. Beautiful, we're almost there. Thank you for practicing patience. Anyone else need seeds? I think we have one more in the back. Great. Beautiful. So friends, these are Minnesota native seeds. Seeds that do more than grow something beautiful. They're seeds that help restore the soil itself. It's like I thought about the connections, y'all. Some of them draw out toxins from the ground. Some of them strengthen the ecosystem around them. All of them participate in healing. And so I just want to invite you for a moment just to hold them. Feel the weight of them in your hand. So small, and yet so full of possibility. What we know is this: the soil is not always what we wish it to be. Sometimes it's depleted, sometimes it's wounded, sometimes it carries the imprint of harm, and still we plant. Because conditions are not perfect, and we know that healing is possible. And because we do not do this work alone. And so I'm going to invite you all, I'm in the Black church tradition, so I'm going to invite you to turn to your neighbor, as we say in the Black church. Maybe someone that you know or someone you're meeting for the first time. Make sure to introduce yourself. And I'm going to invite you to take turns responding to this question. You guys ready? Yes. Are you ready for the question? Awesome. What seeds of hope are you planting right now in wounded soil to help heal the earth, your community, or yourselves? I'll say that question again. What seeds of hope are you planting right now in wounded soil to help heal the earth, your community, or yourself? And so I'm going to invite you all, I'm going to turn into facilitator for a moment. Each of you will have about 2 minutes to answer that question. I'll let you know when it's time to switch. So turn to your neighbor, find a partner, make sure to introduce yourself, because part of the way that we break these cycles is by getting to know each other and answer that question. If you have not already, I invite you to switch partners if you haven't already. One more minute, friends. One more minute. And I'll invite you to slowly, gently wrap up your conversations. Slowly and gently, lovingly wind down your conversations. All right. So it wouldn't be me unless I gave you an action to do next, right? Does everybody have a writing utensil? Everybody got a writing utensil? Thank you. See, amen. See, I see you. I see you. So here's your task. Are you ready? Take your partner's seed packet. Oh, yeah. And now, as an act of mutual care, I invite you, on the back there should be a little label or something. Do you guys see that? A place to write? I want you to write 1 or 2 words. A blessing. Something that you heard in their sharing. Something that you want to affirm and send forward with them. It could be a word like courage, repair, rooted, imagination, steadfastness, joy. Let's invite you to trust what arises. 1 or 2 words. You don't got to write a paragraph, not a sentence, just 1 or 2 words. Everybody write their 1 to 2 words. If you're still writing, you might be writing too much. I'll just give you that hint. All right, are you all ready? Now, I want to invite you to exchange your packets back and receive your blessing. So friends, this is what mutual aid can look like, right? It's not always something big or large or dramatic, but relational, intentional, and grounded in care. So when you leave this place, you can plant these seeds, or you can place them somewhere where you will see them. And let them remind you that even in the midst of wounded soil, something can grow that helps restore the ground itself. And so I'm going to invite you, I'm going to close you, and I'm going to have a little blessing for you all. For we are living in a time where the forces of fragmentation are strong, but so are the forces of renewal. So may we be people who plant anyway. May we tend to that which is ours to tend. May we bless what is growing in one another. And may we remember we do not do this work alone. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Only short people can be behind these things. My name is Diane Jacobson. I serve on the Board of Regents as well as being a member of the Interfaith Symposium host committee. We are so thrilled you were here, and Jen, that was amazing. Can we give her another round of applause? Inclusive wisdom that invited us in. That was just an amazing experience. We look forward to continuing this conversation about healing the earth and healing ourselves during lunch. But first, I'd like to express some sincere appreciation to the generous sponsors of this event, whose support, enthusiasm, and shared commitment to interfaith engagement helped make this symposium a reality. So I want to give a special thanks to Nancy L. Hebry, who couldn't be here today and is so supportive of this work, to Best Buy and to Mortensen for all of their support. And before we transition to lunch, I'd like to suggest or to recognize our partners, the WF Fund, the Inspired Generosity Showcase. That showcase, by the way, is a nationally touring display of Muslim American stories of generosity. It opened in Minneapolis yesterday. We were privileged to be there for the opening. It is astonishing, and I hope you get a chance to go. We are fortunate to have two pieces of the Inspired Generosity Showcase for you to view on your way to lunch. Take some time to do that. The pieces were created by our own Augsburg students. The lunch and panelist program can be found in the chapel. Just walk down the way there and you'll find yourself in the chapel and at lunch. It's amazing how that works. So thank you all again for being here and for your partnership and your support.